Welcome to Faith Works Live. Here's your host, Rebecca Haney.
Life is good, and I'm glad you're here. This is Rebecca Haney on Faith Works Live, but you know that because we're friends. And that's how my approach always is when we discuss issues that matter, whether that's in our backyard here in the state of Iowa or around the nation or around the world. And to know what it looks like to live out our faith on the daily in a crazy old, chaotic, mixed up Romans 1 world. And I saw this story. And, I've got a little bit of that latent reporter in me from all those years and all those student loans that I can't get back. But my background in journalism and current events, you get that little curious bug and you think, what's going on here? What's that story? And even for people that have never been reporters or who, don't have that much to repent of, they don't have a background in media, but you want to know the rest of this story, as Paul Harvey used to say. And this is a situation I really wanted to hear the details because what I'm seeing looks so strange. It's happening kind of in our own backyard, at least if you're in Des Moines. And the source of all the brouhaha over a flagpole at the VA hospital, my goodness, these pieces just don't make sense. So hopefully our guest today can help put together the details of the story. He's going to give us the scoop. Senator Adrian Dickey is on the line with us. Adrian, it's so good to have you with us. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. It's great being with you.
No problem. Well, you are kind of a mover and a shaker, if I may say so. Let's give people a little bit of background on who you are, just kind of your elevator speech. You are a good salt of the earth Iowan, yeah?
Yes, all my life. I've lived in Packwood, Iowa.
And now you serve, as you're growing up, you're a business owner as well.
Correct. My family has a trucking company that I own part of with several other family members. My grandfather started it back in, I believe it was 1959. So very long established business where many of the family work at to this day.
Mm-hmm. And now you also have seen fit to delve into civil service, and you went and got yourself elected.
Yep. Like everybody, serving the Iowa Senate is like a full-time hobby. And the next question they always ask is, well, do you enjoy it? And I say, well, it depends on the day.
Right, exactly.
Some days you get your butts kicked and some days are better than others. But no, I have enjoyed it. On my second term, I'm up for re-election again this fall. And I hope the voters turn out and then I'm able to serve for a third term. So I very much enjoyed it, though.
What are some of the things that motivate you, both running and now that you're in office? What are some of the big things that you think, this is a way that I can make a difference?
Yeah. From my business background and being in trucking and transportation, of course, that was a big part of it. Was just, when people think Iowa and you think jobs, of course, the biggest employer or sector always comes to everybody's mind is agriculture, and that's absolutely true. That's number one. But the number two in the state of Iowa is trucking. 1 out of every 11 jobs in the state of Iowa is related to the trucking industry. It is a big, big player, and there's just, in being a part of this industry for 30 some years, there's just a lot of issues that weren't getting looked at as far as how drivers are treated and just different things. And that was probably the initial interest. Tax, I'm a conservative Republican, and the more we can lower taxes, the better the day is, in my opinion. So
here.
Thank you. And so that was, of course, a big issue. But really, it's just, now we have a term for it, right? The woke, all these woke issues.
Mm-hmm.
When I first ran, maybe that was a term that was out there. I don't recall it, right? But it was just these issues without a term that you sit there and you scratch your head. My campaign slogan is protecting what common sense looks like. You look at some of this stuff and it's not common sense. I mean, the argument of a God-made man supposed to or wanting to compete in women's sports, that's just not common sense. I mean, why are some of these issues even issues? I guess and it was not initially over those issues, but it's probably morphed a lot into these kind of woke issues and ideology issues. That's sad to say that I would say the majority of them weren't even conversation points 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, they just weren't even in the conversation. And, if you look at, some of these woke type things that were big topics 10 years ago, you barely even hear anything about them now. I mean, they've been so replaced or moved to the back burner because of there's just so many more crazy issues, I guess, out there. So
isn't it weird
yeah.
how much it's changed in just the last decade? It really feels really fast. And I can't remember the philosopher that talked about time doesn't really move in cycles, it moves in spirals. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's the
No, I'm
idea that
not.
it kind of feels like that sometimes. It's sort of like things start circling around. You start to see, all the jokes about the Roman Empire aside, we can see likenesses of past nations, past civilizations in history. And when they start to do these things, they kind of start to spiral down the drain. And I am recognizing that things seem to move, to be devolving or disintegrating so much faster than I would have thought possible. The things that we thought were ridiculous a decade ago, that we would even be discussing this, are now just commonplace. Now it's become the topic du jour. And it's fascinating to look back at what we thought would come in the last 10 years and see where we are now as we continue to slide down this ever so slippery slope. But I guess that may be a discussion for another day, but it's related to what we're talking about now, because you have basically a saga between you and the local VA hospital. And I saw your post. It reminded me that I had seen some of this before. And I wonder if you could give us some background as to what on earth is going on and how all of this started.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. And I wouldn't say it's against the VA hospital. It's more the VA administration, right?
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, because the men and women that work at that hospital, of course, it's a job for them, but I have to think that most of them are there for respect to the men and women that are using that facility, right? So,
sure.
Their heart's absolutely in the right place. So, and over the last year and a half or 2 years, where we're going to get into, I've lost count on how many employees had walked out or walked by and applauded and thanked the things that I was doing. So I don't think this is a reflective of most of the employees. But yes, so what happened was a year ago, right now, pretty much, I got a phone call from a lady from Des Moines, and I don't even know where she got my number. She said she found it online somewhere. I don't know. Doesn't matter. But she said,
it's out there. I'm sure it is.
Yep. I'm sure she gave me her name. I don't recall it all, but she goes, I'm so and so, and I live in Des Moines, and did I lose you?
No, I'm right here with you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought I got disconnected. She goes, there's an issue up here at the VA hospital, and my state senator I know absolutely would not do anything about it. And she's from a Democratic district, and I don't want to put the senator's name out there, but I'm like, yeah, you're right. They wouldn't help you on this issue at all.
Okay.
But the issue was, she said, I went to VA today, and the American flag was not flying at the main entrance. I said, what? And your first reaction is probably something, what? That can't be right. And she goes, no, she's not. There's another flag flying on that pole. Every time I've gone in there, the American flag's been flying on that pole, and now it's a different flag. And we get talking about this, and then I want everybody to understand also, the VA campus is a large campus, and they do have a flagpole on the other side of this main building that does fly the American flag. And last year they were flying the American flag as well. But it's like the old entrance that nobody goes in. Probably 99% of the people enter what they call the main entrance. All their signs on, as you're driving in, shows this door being the main entrance. Okay. So she said, for all the years I've come in here, there's been an American flag flying right there by the main entrance, and now it's another flag. And we talked about it, and she said, how demoralizing it is, and just, it's not right. And I don't know that her issue was against what the other flag was.
I understand I'm picking up what you're putting down, Adrian. How about so what happens when you get this call from a lady that says, "Hey, they're not flying the American flag. They're flying another flag." So they've got the flagpole there, right? But we expect to see Old Glory, and these are men and women that have fought for our nation, that are coming in for medical treatment. And I mean, I would expect that the least that we could do, the courtesy that you would expect at an official, government building at a VA hospital, is to fly the American flag. But in Des Moines last year, you find the situation is different, is not so. So what do you do?
So yeah, you have to. So I had this phone call. This lady from Des Moines calls me up and tells me about this, and I go to bed that night thinking, well, I could write a letter, I could make some phone calls, I could do whatever. And then the light went on and said, or I could just drive up there and put a flag up on the pole, right? The obvious solution.
Sure.
So I got up early that morning and I drove 2 hours to Des Moines. And the whole time, again, I'm thinking about why I'm driving up there. And as I pull in the parking lot and I see that the American flag is not flying, I'm still like just blown away, and even though I'm expecting that, it was still hard to believe. Like the whole time I'm thinking, well, it was a fluke. It's just not, but it wasn't. So I had brought a flag with me and went to the flagpole, and the flagpole is one of those flagpoles that kind of telescopes up and down. So I was able to lower the flagpole and not remove the flag that was there. There was space above it for the American flag, and simply put the American flag on and raised the pole, and did that without touching the other flag. And it was neat because as I was doing it, two veterans walked out. One started crying, one started applauding. They were walking together, and the one crying came up and said, "Sir," he goes, "I just want you to know that you have no idea how demoralized I was this morning when I walked in and saw something other than the American flag flying. That's not what we do as soldiers. Nothing flies above the American flag." And I had tears, and it was a nice moment, but it really hit home that I did. I mean, what I did was really mattered, and it was that quickly. So we chatted a little bit, and I thanked them for their service, and we talked about what he was there for, and then I went on my way and came home. Well, that evening I got thinking, surely they won't take that flag down again, will they? I mean, surely not. So the next morning I woke up and I drove back and pulled in, and sure enough, the flag was down again. And so I went to a local store, and as what I say any good trucker would do, I bought a bigger flag and went back and put it on top of that flagpole. And as I did that, a maintenance guy came out and said, "Do you have permission for what you're doing?" And I said, "Sir, the only permission he said, "Do you have permission from the administration, the VA administration, for putting that flag up?" And I said, sir, the only permission I need to put this flag up is from the men and women walking this door. And I'm pretty damn sure that no one's going to complain about what I'm doing." And he grumbled and said, "Well, so-and-so is not going to like that." And I said, I could care less if they like it or not, because it's just the right thing to do. And this went on a couple different times. And finally, I like to say that the VA, I guess, finally waved the white flag. and
nice, very funny.
Yep, and they let it be. They let the American flag fly atop the pole, and then the other flag that was below it. Throughout the rest of the summer, pretty much every time I drove through Des Moines, I drove by, American flag was flying. Right, that was great, as it should be. So you
think they learned their lesson, right? They learned okay, well, we'll just keep the American flag up. That seems to make the most sense. We are in America, and we are the VA hospital. So no harm done.
Yes, and I looked a lot of what was behind the other flag that was flying. It was an order by President Biden. The VAs had the opportunity to do this. They weren't required to do it, but I think it was elective. I drove to the Iowa City VA, for example, last year, thinking if the Des Moines VA is doing this, the Iowa City VA would certainly be doing the same thing.
Sure.
And surprisingly, they were not. They chose just to fly the American flag, and there was no sign of the other flag around.
Fascinating.
So, yeah, I kind of thought that was a little odd or unique. So throughout the year, the American flag continued to fly, and I thought it was all good, right? And
Mhm.
again, there's another flagpole on the other side of the building. It flies it, but the point is, two things. One, you can't see it from when you enter the parking lot and enter the main entrance,
Mhm.
and two, I have them fly both poles, right? Put
Sure.
50 poles up, right?
Right.
Well, you could not have enough flagpoles with the American flag at the VA campus.
Mhm.
Saluting these men and women. So anyway, the month of June rolls around again, and
So here we are,
I
present day, right? As you and I talk.
yeah, present day, correct. Present day brings us to this month, and I drive up there on the 1st of June, and not only is the American flag not flying, the entire flagpole's gone. Like,
Wow.
gone. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Gone gone. She gone.
gone,
Wow.
gone. And I'm thinking, all right, well, there's an obvious answer to this, whatever. So I called administration, and the administrator was gone, but spoke to another person in the administration office, I guess, and they said yes. And I could tell this lady, well, it felt like this lady wasn't very excited or in agreement of what she was telling me, but she said, yeah, the administration decided it'd be easier to remove the flagpole than fight with you on having to fly the American flag.
Wow. They just
Yeah,
took the whole thing down.
gone. Junie,
Wow.
gone, gone.
That's
Yep,
crazy.
yep. So I'm thinking, wow, the pole's gone. Well, last year I went up and put the flag up. Well, this year I guess I'm going to put a flag pole up and a
Adrian,
flag, right?
we got a plan.
Yep. I mean, yeah. I mean, the right's right. It's just so. So I bought a couple of these 25-foot flagpoles, or bought one and drove up there. And I put it up on. I was going to go up and do it. I believe it was that Tuesday, and then I remembered, what's coming up? It's the anniversary of D-Day.
Yes. The 80th
And
anniversary.
absolutely. And I'm like, what better way to do it than to do it on that day? And, as a token to appreciation to the men and women that served on that day from our great state of Iowa, and every day since then, to do as a bit of appreciation to these men and women that originally made America great,
Couldn't agree more.
So I had a plaque made with that an inscription of some sort that said that, and placed it on the flagpole, and went up. I think it was a Friday morning, very, very early in the morning, and put the pole up, and got back home and found out the pole had been removed again. And it was that day, but I think it was within several hours of that taking place.
Oh, this is a
Yeah.
25-foot flagpole.
Yeah.
That's not a little thing to try and move.
No, but they got it accomplished. Gone. And one thing I never did. So the original flagpole had like a socket in the ground, to slide the pole down into.
Mm-hmm.
That was still there. So I was able to put the flagpole up without disturbing anything on the grounds, right?
Okay,
It
so you're
wasn't
not
digging
you're
a
not
hole.
digging in, you're not like disturbing the landscaping or the foundations or anything like that.
That's
You're just
right.
putting the flagpole in the thing that the socket that the
Yep.
flagpoles go in.
Yep, the socket, the pipe was already in the ground, and I just
Okay.
put the new one right back in the existing socket, right? So because I remember the year before, if I had even took the other flag down that we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
a comment was made somewhere in that whole month that, they would have charged you with vandalism, right?
Might,
So,
yeah.
so I'm like, God, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But if they're taking down the American flag and now taking down the flagpole, who knows what they would do?
Sure.
So, so that's why I didn't want to touch any of the, to give that any grounds for that to take place.
Right.
To charge me with something. So it was perfect. The socket was still in the ground. Put the new flagpole in. Later that day, it's gone again. So I buy another flagpole and take it up. It was probably
Right now.
two days after that, right?
You're a frequent flyer at Flagpoles R Us.
That's right. Yeah. And and this time I bought 3 more flagpoles. So
Sure. Yeah.
so I'm buying them in bulk. Who knows how those going to go along? We're early into the month, and I got a lot of ambition.
You're like, I got nowhere to be. I'm here all month, y'all.
That's
I
right.
like the way you think. All right. So what happens then? So now
So
you're going to get another flagpole.
Yep. Put the second flagpole up. Same thing later today. It was taken down. Okay. Well, and I say, all right. So I go up. It would have been this past. Oh, it's for Flag Day. Yeah. So the second flagpole was taken down like on a Monday or Tuesday when I put it up. So I go up on Thursday night, and after at midnight, I put another flagpole up for Flag Day. We got to have a American flag flying at the main entrance on Flag Day.
You would think.
I would think, right? And I go up to do this and find out that they had put a cable and a padlock through the socket. They drilled a hole through the socket to put a lock on it, so I couldn't put the flagpole down in through the socket.
Wow, that is insane.
Yeah. It's insane. I mean, going to that length, that took a lot of effort for them to do that, right? To put a cable and a padlock through it to prevent me from putting a flag up. So the hole now was 3 inches. Now it's, 1.5 inches. I went out and bought a 12-foot pipe at Menards and made a flagpole that would fit within the 1-inch opening, between the cable and the rest of the pole.
Oh, that's too good.
And I go, it takes me a little bit to get that done. And I get this done, and I'm driving back. It had been Friday morning, and I meet a skid loader leaving that spot. Yes, they had just got done digging up the socket from there. And I had made
serious?
I am absolutely serious. And I made a post on Facebook about the craziness of that, right? That they've, I came up on Flag Day, and they've actually put a lock on it, so I can't put a flagpole up. And I'm guessing from that post, because there's been a lot of traction with these posts I've made, that the VA heard and all right, we're just going to dig the thing up, so nobody can fly a American flag at the main entrance.
That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. So, it's just. And again, when when I come back and I see that socket there, and I had another flag with me, and 2 vets walked out, and they're like, what are you doing? And I said, well, I came to put the flag up, and I've had a pattern. I've put up a couple poles in the last week or two, and they're like, oh, we've heard all about that, and that was you. And I said, yeah. And they were disgusted, talking about how stupid. And one was a younger guy and one was an older veteran, and how sad they were that this was taking place. And I said to him, I said, there is a flag flying on the other side of the building, so there is still a flag here. But they're like, well, I can't see it. Where's it at? I said, well, that's kind of the point. You can't see it. So we had a nice talk, and it was just. Yeah, sad. Why are we talking about this? And I had a VA person reach out after that, and I've heard a lot of people have called the VA to express their displeasure with this.
Good.
Yeah, and that's because a lot of people reach out to me and said, "Have you talked to the media? Have you done this? Have you done that?" And I'm like, no, that's not my place. If other people want to, they can share that. But a lot of people reach out to the VA. I've had 5 different people call me back that's told me. I've had more than 5, but 5 have told me that the story that they got from the VA, the justification why they did what they did, and every story was different. There was a story. There was a story that there was one said that the flagpole was leaning and it was going to cause a health hazard if it hit somebody. It wasn't leaning; it was still firmly 3 foot in the ground. The socket was. There was. I had another one comment about. One said that they were told that it's a federal law that you cannot fly 2 flags on a property. Now that's not true. That's what they claimed.
That doesn't make any sense.
One
have they been to the state capitol?
Well, that's good. Exactly. That's what I told them. One had said that they were told that they're in the middle of a landscaping project, and that's why the pole's been taken down.
They are now, I guess.
Well, I think they've pivoted to that maybe narrative now to try to diffuse some of the heat on this. So, I've heard them say that they are going to relocate. And I told them, one person I talked to, administrator, I said is, well, if this is the main entrance and you only want to have one flagpole, maybe put it at the main entrance, right? Move the one you got.
Sure.
It's just they keep having different excuses, and it's a moving narrative, and it's just we know what that's worth.
Right.
But it's sad. It's kind of like so many other issues. Why is this even an issue?
Yeah.
It's just sad.
It's so strange. And I'm not sure if is there one specific person? Would it be the one administrator that makes these decisions? Is it a committee of people? I'm assuming there's like one head honcho where the buck stops.
I would say all of what you just stated. I'm sure there's a committee, and I'm sure there's, the chief administrator that the buck stops with her. Last year it was a directive from the federal government, but I saw the letter that was sent out to all the VAs. It was, I don't know, I'm in front of me right now, but from certainly what I recall, it was you can do this, you can fly this other flag, not a must, you have to. And nowhere that I recall ever seeing that said you have to take the American flag down to fly this other flag, So I don't know. It's just, I've had some people online kind of criticize me and say I'm vandalizing federal property, and I'm like, you're going to the extreme. This flagpole has been flying there for years. Their words were they took it down so they didn't have to deal with me on it. I guess if you call me, people call me a criminal. I mean, just like ludicrous. I mean, this is just respecting the men and women that have made our country great.
Yeah.
And they're walking in this facility for the reasons that our country's great.
Right.
Why is this an issue?
I can't believe that we're wasting this much in terms of, like, they had to hire somebody to get a skid loader. They had to hire, that's utterly ridiculous that they're willing to go to these great lengths to stop the American flag being flown. Specifically because they didn't want to justify why they were vaunting another flag and another set of colors ahead of Old Glory at the VA hospital. That's my take. And it seems pretty clear that's the intimation that they made to you by admitting just as much. Like, well, if we're not going to be able to fly the flag we want to fly and it's going to be an issue, then we're just not going to fly any flags at all. And that seems utterly ridiculous. I can't imagine that if you took a poll of all of the men and women that go in and out of that VA hospital just over the last week or two, since this whole saga has been going on this year, Adrian, that I cannot believe that you would have any single person object to what you did, and not to mention the people that have actively supported what you're doing. And can you imagine having a fight over whether or not the flag that these men and women have put their lives on the line for, have sacrificed everything for, and maybe facing significant health problems might be the reason that they're there in the first place, for one reason, and it's to honor the flag and the republic for which it stands. And it is the ultimate dishonor, in my humble opinion, to now say, well, you know what, that's not politically correct. That's become an issue where we're not even proud of this flag anymore. We have to represent all these other groups, but we can't have the Stars and Stripes fly over this hospital that's here to serve, but on the taxpayer dime, for the very men and women that were willing to sacrifice everything to protect this flag. I cannot imagine the people that, like, I'm seeing the iconic sculpture of the men raising the flag on Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
That flag means everything. Everything. Because
Everything.
of the republic for which it stands, the freedom for which we all stand, that they're willing to risk their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honors for, to use the founder's language. And I cannot believe that they're going to these great lengths and spending so much time and money and effort, by the way, to create a controversy that ultimately didn't even have to happen. But I guess that's the American bureaucracy. Like, in a nutshell, that's what you're talking about. Like, all of these issues that shouldn't even be issues, because we've got actual lives and actual rights that are in peril and actual concerns in our country. And this is what they choose to focus on. I guess it's perfectly apropos.
Yep, absolutely. And the whole time, if they want to fly their flag, so be it. I mean, I'm not supporting that. Just do it below the American flag. I mean, that's just the common sense part of this is,
Mhm.
they keep creating an issue that should never be an issue. As one soldier or one veteran that walked out this week, this month when I was putting a poll up, he walked out and he remembered the issue from last year. And he said that the reason why these other flags fly is because of the American flag, right?
That we have
They're
the
all
freedom
able
to
to
do
fly.
that.
Absolutely. So honor the freedom and the men and women that fought for that above every other flag that needs to fly. It's just, just wow, wow, wow,
Wow.
wow.
So where do you think
Um,
we should go from here? Like, I know we're talking about the story, and I appreciate that you're willing to tell us about this, because I'm not trying to do, a shock jock thing or turn it into anything. I just think this is
yeah,
important that people, especially because number one, this is taxpayer funded. And veterans deserve better than this. I know, we have a lot of military service. I haven't served. My husband has, and he has and still has the we know the cost. I'll just put it full well. We know the
yeah,
cost and the
mhm,
toll that it takes. I have grandparents on both sides. His grandfather. It's there's a pride that comes with the sacrifice, but then those men and women deserve the best that we have to offer back to them. They've given it all, and we as a nation say we should honor that. So why aren't we honoring that? That's, I guess, the question that rings in my mind is why they choose to pick these like petty little squabbles over the American flag when that should be they
the
should be
standard.
there to
This is
protect
given.
that.
Yeah,
It like
yeah.
that should be the reason that they're in business, is to
Well,
honor and protect what the flag stands for. And it's
well, just
shocking to me that they don't. So I feel like everybody would be shocked by that, even if, no matter what your background, what your beliefs, what your discussions are on other subordinate flags, we used to all be able to rally around the flag. Literally, that's
yeah.
the saying, rally around the flag, because that stands for what we all have in common as Americans, for the unifying principles that make us a people, that bring us together. And now it's just another cause. According to them, they're turning it into a cause for division.
Yeah. I think back to is what you're talking about. A lot of this just patriotism in general, and not to say that anything ever good came out of 9/11. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes in bad things you got to try to find some good somewhere. And
Right.
one for me on that day was um, how unified and patriotic our country became after that day. I mean, remember for gosh, a year, if you walked in a store and saw a flag, you bought it, right? Because there was kind of
Yeah.
like toilet paper during COVID. It wasn't to be found anywhere. If you saw it, you bought it. And
Right.
but people were just overflowing with their patriotic love of America and wanting to display it. And that's now been 20 some years ago, and it's like it's kind of gone away. Like,
Mm-hmm.
do we need another moment like that to remember why we are so fortunate? Why, a whole different issue, but why these millions of illegals are wanting to come into our countries for the things that we're just taking for granted.
Yeah.
Talking about, uh, we have a Veterans Day,
Mm-hmm.
and some of these air flags we're talking about have months.
Yeah.
Why don't we have a Veterans Month?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, how have we gotten so disconnected that some of these other issues have a greater level of significance where they have an entire month to their cause, but we can only celebrate veterans on one day?
Yeah.
It just, we've just lost touch with what really matters to all of us, to have the freedoms that we have, to have the differences that we have. Is like we don't know, so many people don't realize why we have those freedoms,
Mm-hmm.
and the ability to celebrate our differences, um, without respecting where all that came from. And people are just so, and that's the underlying factor, I guess, for me on this issue with the VA. Is like they just they lost track of that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if what I've done and bring this awareness, and hopefully this gets changed, and I would love to see the VA, redo that front entrance where a big old flagpole that's 50-foot tall that's flying proudly right there. That would be
Yes.
phenomenal.
I like it.
That's what the excellent end result happens from this whole ordeal. And I
Mhm.
want to be there when they cut the ribbon to do it, to think that maybe just a little bit I had to bring awareness to the need and respecting our
Mhm.
veterans in the manner
Yeah.
that they should be.
Well, and I can hear in your voice, Adrian, as we're talking, that this isn't something that's being motivated by anger, or I know that can, as you're telling the story. So in my mind, I'm casting the movie version, and I can see like the skid loader coming in. I can see you bringing in these, big, tall, 25-foot flagpoles, and you're like, "There's the showdown at the VA flagpole." Like it, and it doesn't have to escalate, but it just seems like every time they just refuse to like be commonsensical about it. I refuse to get the point, and then they continue to escalate it, and you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm doing this then. And that's how like normal everyday people end up in with major motion pictures based on a true story, because
Well,
like this is what happens. And I can tell it's not because you're like you're not trying to vandalize anything. You're trying to be very careful, you're trying to be very respectful, but ultimately you're taking a stand because this is, and you're being supported by the veterans that are supposed to, whose interests are supposed to be served by the VA hospital, by the people of America and the people of Iowa specifically. So it's crazy to think that it's escalated this far, because there's another meme that's going around in my head. This escalated quickly. I just I wonder, like, where do we go from here? Hopefully, I share your hope, that maybe we can all kind of come together around this and support a brand new like raising of the flagpole and the colors, and that would be wonderful to see the American flag flying and celebrating all together.
yeah.
Do you have any indication as to what will happen next?
Well, I don't, but I don't want. I don't want the last move that the VA did was digging up the socket outlet, right? I don't want that to be the end of it. But as you mentioned, very careful as to what I feel like I can do, because I don't want to get charged with vandalism, and I don't want to be disrespectful on the grounds, right? If so, it's a fine line. So what I think I'm going to do next is, and I welcome your viewers to do the same thing, and
Mhm.
and everybody can do this on every given day. You stop in your local store. Um, they got the American flags on a 2-foot wood stick, right? You see them in
Mhm.
parades everywhere. I've bought a bunch. Every time I drive to Des Moines, I'm driving by and I'm sticking one where that flagpole sat, right? And I'm sure the VA is going to come out and remove it. But it's going to be a constant reminder to them this issue isn't over, right? You need to have a flag welcome these men and women when they walk through these doors.
Mhm.
And maybe that's where this turns to, and they want to charge me for, vandalism by putting that up, well, we'll see. I guess if that's something that they want to do, but it's, again, the point is these men and women just simply deserve that. So let's give them that, and it's been that way for years.
Mhm.
That they've had this second flagpole for years. So a year ago, a bunch of the veterans groups really got involved and were reaching out to me, and they were fired up.
Mhm.
The Patriot Guard, they said, you let us know next time you put that flag up, and we are
Sure.
going to protect that flag 24/7 until the issue's over, right?
Mhm.
And they were ready to do this, and then that's kind of when the VA said, all right, they waved the white flag on the issue. Um, maybe that's that's the issue, for more veterans groups to bring this up. Like, what's going on? Why are you doing this?
Yeah. I
Um,
think that would be
so
effective too. I think if it were just average everyday people, specifically veterans, should make their voices heard. Absolutely. I mean, I can as a citizen, and lo and behold, if I find myself driving by that route and every once in a while an American flag happens to fall out onto their property, that could happen. I'm not saying it
yep.
will. I'm just saying it could happen, and that it would be really hard for them to specifically and systematically remove 2,000 American flags from their front lawn and call it vandalism. I'm just spitballing here. That it's
Yep,
in the realm
absolutely.
of possibility. It could
Just
happen.
possibility. Could happen at the
But
at the little the roundabout before you make the main entrance where there's flowers and that's where the flagpole once stood, that'd be a perfect place if it were just to happen.
For example, allegedly. But I also think that veterans groups and people that are hearing this story now, like contact the VA, contact the administration. You could also contact your legislator, because I think this is a place where civically, like they do have, and your colleagues, Adrian, we do have, I know people are out of session right now, but they can write some letters. They can make their voices heard as well. And the more people that speak out, I think part of the reason that we've had this canceling effect for so long, or the silencing effect, like you say, common sense just feels like it's not common enough anymore. And we need to return to that, is because the average everyday people that were just, salt of the earth, hardworking folks that love Jesus and America too, that we all got quiet. We all got silent, and it was a vocal super minority, a very small amount of our population that suddenly started screaming and grabbing all the attention, and therefore all the special consideration. And so people, average folks just kind of said, okay, we'll make room, we'll be quiet. I guess, they don't need to hear from us, whatever. And so there's been this vacuum effect, and nature abhors a vacuum. So when we keep compressing our voice, we keep being silenced. We're being silenced by our own consent. All we have to do is speak up for what we know is right. All we have to do is speak up. And the kicker is, this is the thing that unifies us. If we can't rally around the American flag, you're not making some kind of like crazy revolutionary political statement other than the one that happened back in 1776. That's the reason that we're sitting here speaking freely today. Can I get a witness? So this is supposed to be the thing that represents all of us and all of our freedoms and the things that bring us all together. Surely we can come together. If you hear this story, if this is igniting something in you, if you believe that, this is wrong, this is not respectful to the men and women in our armed services that deserve that have fought for that flag and deserve the right to see it fly above the hospital where they're seeking treatment. And again, this is your tax dollars at work. So you do have a say.
And this all could be changed in November. Keep in mind, this is a directive from President Biden.
True. There's federal level here.
That's right. And it's a federal facility, so the state level can't really intervene. I had a lot of people say, well, why can't Governor Reynolds, get involved? I think there's complications because it's federal property. But this November, this can all change. I believe that Congress this year passed a bill that said something along the lines that the American flag has to fly, on every pole that any other flag is going to be on, with the exception, I believe, is the there was one exception on it. The MIA soldiers, right? That they have their own flagpole, which always flies right next to the American flag, right?
Okay.
But it was something along the lines that any flagpole that's flying the American flag any flag has to have the American flag on it. Mm. And from what I understand, President Biden refused to sign that bill into law. Mm. So, again, this is his directive. So
he has made his position clear.
Very clear.
And if you want an alternative to that, that's what elections are for.
That's right. So.
Oh man. Well, I mean, goodness, this feels like it's not over. And I want to hear the rest of the story. I want to keep following this as things develop, as things progress. Like I said, I think the best thing for us to do, if you're listening to this conversation, we need to spread the word that this type of thing is happening. This is really just petty. Like, why would you why would this mean so much to you that you're willing to pull out all the stops to prevent it now? Now it's not just a matter of saying we want to avoid conflict. It's actively, creating a situation where it's impossible to fly the American flag here just because. And that smacks to me of another agenda, but I can't prove that. So I'll just leave my assumptions over here in the suggestion box in the corner. And I just want to thank you for being willing to take a stand, Adrian. I know that's not easy.
Well, thank you. I guess I never really thought about it being the hard thing. It's just the right thing to do. And maybe my elected position gave me the ability to do that a little more so than others felt empowered to do that. So, but it's probably like, looking back to what we talked about earlier in the conversation, how many issues that are issues right now that weren't issues 5 or 10 years ago. I'm pretty certain that you and I can put this issue on having to fly the American flag above the main entrance at the VA hospital was certainly on that list that would have never been on the list 5 years ago, right?
Oh, man. Here we are, brave new world. But we will be braver still. And Adrian, I appreciate you taking the stand. Like I said, I mean, it may have just seemed like it was the right thing to do for you, but I know it takes a lot to be moved from just consternation or from aggravation into action. And I think that's what we're actually seeing now. We talk about the last decade. It's gotten weird as it's gotten woke, but I've also seen a lot of waking up being done on the parts of mama bears and dads and grandparents and just, everyday citizens that care about their kids. They care about the country's future. They care about the direction that we're heading, and saying, yes, we should be proud of all the things that make America unique. And we should be willing to protect that legacy of rights and to actually have the freedom that we've valued for so long and that we've been willing to fight for so long. That's still worth fighting for today. So I know a lot of people are willing to speak up, to take a stand. They're not going to take it anymore. And and we don't have to. See, that's the whole First Amendment. That's right there for a reason. And I don't think that we should. I think that especially as people of faith, because we're talking from that perspective, as followers of Christ, it is for freedom that Christ set us free. And the freedom that we enjoy and that we seek to preserve in this nation is also the good and the flourishing of everyone, whether or not they agree with us on every point. You love your neighbor and you want what's good, what's truly good for that person. And if we're going to allow other voices to come in and tell us that, this isn't done anymore, and you have to step aside, I'm like, I'm not really sure then that we have much of a country left at that point. So I'm willing to stand up and honor to whom honor is due. I think that our veterans deserve that honor. I think our country deserves that honor. And I, as just one voice, am willing to stand up and say and salute and be right there with you. Thank you, Adrian Dickey, for being our special guest today. And if this story has motivated you, I'm just saying you can contact the administrator at the VA hospital in the fine city of Des Moines, and we can fly our flags all the harder as we celebrate our independence. You fly your flag with pride, so to speak. Thank you for listening to Faith Works Live. Pass this story on. I think we need to hear, I think every Iowan needs to hear what's going on here and to be able to make your voice and your opinion heard. Again, this is a federal issue because they're making it a federal issue. So they have essentially invited our response. So please do respond in kindness and in kind. Thanks for listening to Faith Works Live. Let me know what you think. And if you call the VA administrator, I'll ask for her comment and just see. I'll let you know. So to be continued. And until next time, our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to love God, to serve people, and to live free. In today's world, security has never been more vital. And at FaithWorks Live, we're proud to partner with VeriGuard Security. It's a professional physical security service, and they're really raising the bar in security and private investigations. Whether you need a team of professional officers to protect what you have worked hard to build, or their mobile security units for multiple properties or large locations, from business or corporate properties to your home or neighborhood. Perhaps you've got an event coming up. They secure quality security coverage for events large and small, because it's about peace of mind and protecting you, your family, your team, and your property. Settle for nothing less than the best when it comes to your security. You shouldn't have to compromise. When it comes to security, you can trust VeriGuard. Contact them today at veriguard.us. That's VARA guard.us. For security service, you can trust VeriGuard.
If you've ever wondered what love looks like, check out Agape Pregnancy Resource Center. They offer free services to help women make informed decisions and prepare for their futures. In particular, in a situation of an unplanned pregnancy, women need to know that the truth about their bodies. They need to know the truth about their babies and all of their options. And they'll find that at Agape Pregnancy Resource Center. Go to agapedsm.com and find ways that you can get involved in this amazing ministry, whether it's free pregnancy testing, STD testing, free ultrasounds and counseling, not to mention practical resources, hygiene items, parenting classes, just the list goes on. They change lives. This is a place that truly helps people. And if you care about the women in our community, check out agapedsm.com and click on Get Involved today.
There's no better time than now to stand for life. And you can stand with Iowa's original pro-life organization, Pulse for Life. They're the longest standing nonprofit pro-life organization in Iowa, and they are dedicated to informing, educating, and inspiring a new generation to value the sanctity of all human life, from fertilization until natural death. They serve at the State House. They educate in classrooms, at events. They proudly serve on the coalition of pro-life leaders. They are on the front lines of the battle against this throwaway culture of death that we see all around us, and we are winning ground. Hearts and minds are changing, and the pro-life movement is continuing to grow. And you can be a part of the exciting things that are happening right here in our own backyard at pulseforlife.org and get your finger on the pro-life pulse. Sign up for their newsletter, find ways that you can make a difference, and how you can change hearts and minds with their pro-life apologetics course, pulseforlife.org. Hey, what's for dinner? If you're like me, I hear that 15 times a day. And fortunately, I have a plan. It's typically Animus beef at our house. We are such big fans of Animus beef at the Haney home because it's just great quality beef. There's no steroids or antibiotics. It's naturally raised butcher beef. They sell by the quarter, the half, or the whole, and they support your local meat lockers so they can help you get it processed in a way that works for you. In this economy, it's good to have affordable options for your meat. And if you're willing to make a good investment in your nutrition for a healthy menu plan, I highly recommend Animus Beef. Contact Dave and Mary Lynn at animusbeef.com. They welcome your questions. They'll help get you on the schedule. They have locker dates coming up. Don't wait. Secure your locker date today. Go to animusbeef.com. That's OHNEMUS beef.com. When a woman faces an unplanned pregnancy, every possible emotion goes through her head. Where can she go for help and for hope? She can go to Intervisions. Here in our metro, we have 2 healthcare clinics where she will find hope and help. From free pregnancy testing and STD testing to free ultrasounds, Intervision serves women and men with STDs who find themselves in vulnerable situations. They're completely free of charge because of generous donations from folks like you. And their medical clinics help their patients get all the information that they deserve that empowers them to make life-affirming decisions. That's what they do at Intervision's healthcare clinics right here in Des Moines. Learn more at intervisionshealthcare.org. That's intervisionshealthcare.org. And you can call 24 hours a day at 515-440-CARE. That's 515-440-2273.